The wolf should have died. The storm should have buried its body beneath the snow. And the Alpha King should have executed the girl who touched what belonged to him. Yet beneath a night drowned in ice and darkness, a forgotten Omega knelt beside a dying beast in a frozen ravine. Blood stained the snow. The wolf's breathing grew weaker. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the most feared king in the realm was already searching for him. Before dawn, their worlds would collide. Before sunrise, a kingdom's destiny would begin to change. Because the girl everyone called cursed was about to save the one creature the Alpha King loved more than life itself. And when the king finally found her, he looked into her eyes, then refused to leave. Winter ruled the northern wilderness like a merciless god. The wind screamed across endless fields of white, carrying needles of ice sharp enough to cut exposed skin. Ancient pine trees bent beneath the weight of snow. Their black silhouettes swayed against a sky so dark it seemed the stars themselves had abandoned the world. Far beyond the warmth of villages and castle walls, a lone figure struggled through the storm. Elara. Her boots sank deep into the snow with every step. The basket hanging from her arm was only half full of firewood, but exhaustion already weighed on her body like chains. The cold had become a familiar companion years ago. Loneliness had become an even closer one. A distant bell echoed from the village behind her. Even through the storm, she could hear laughter. Families gathering around warm fires. Children rushing home. Doors opening. Doors closing. None of them would open for her. They never did. The villagers called her cursed. The strange Omega girl. The unwanted girl. The girl whose scent felt different.
Wrong.
Dangerous. Elara lowered her gaze and continued walking. It hurt less when she pretended not to care. Yet some wounds never stopped bleeding. A sharp gust nearly knocked her off balance. Snow swirled violently around her. Then she heard it.
A sound. Faint.
Broken. Almost swallowed by the storm. Elara froze. The cry came again. Not human. Animal.
Pain.
Pure pain. Her chest tightened. Most people would have ignored it. Most people were trying to survive the storm. But Elara had always been weak when it came to suffering, especially suffering she could feel. She turned toward the sound. The cry echoed once more. Closer now.
Desperate.
Without thinking, she abandoned the path. The wind grew stronger as she climbed over frozen rocks and snow-covered ridges. Minutes passed. Then she found the ravine. Her breath caught instantly. The ground had collapsed beneath layers of ice, creating a jagged wound in the earth. At the bottom lay a massive silver wolf. Blood stained the snow around it. One hind leg bent at an unnatural angle. Deep claw marks tore across its side. The animal wasn't moving. For one terrifying second, Elara thought it was already dead. Then she saw the faint rise of its chest.
Alive. Barely.
Oh no. The words escaped her lips as mist formed before her face. The wolf opened one golden eye. Pain flashed through it. Pain so intense that Elara physically felt it. Her strange gift stirred inside her. The empathic connection she had hidden her entire life. Suddenly, she wasn't only seeing the wolf's suffering. She was feeling it. The fear. The exhaustion. The desperate fight to survive. Tears filled her eyes. The wolf let out another weak sound. And Elara made her decision. She climbed down. The descent was dangerous. Ice cracked beneath her boots. Sharp rocks sliced through her gloves. Twice she nearly fell. Yet she continued downward until she finally reached the animal. Up close, the creature was enormous. Larger than any wolf she had ever seen. Its silver fur shimmered beneath layers of snow. Ancient. Powerful. Beautiful. The wolf growled weakly. Not a threat. A warning. A creature too proud to surrender. Elara slowly knelt beside him. It's all right, she whispered. You don't have to fight me. The wolf's golden eyes locked onto hers. The growl faded. A strange silence settled between them. Then something impossible happened. The fear inside the animal eased. Just slightly. Elara felt it. As clearly as if it were her own emotion. Her pulse quickened. The connection had never been this strong before. Carefully, she removed her cloak and covered the wolf's body. Then she began treating the wounds. Hours passed. The storm worsened. Darkness deepened. Her fingers became numb. Her body trembled violently. Still she worked, gathering herbs, binding wounds, building a makeshift shelter from fallen branches. Every time she thought about stopping, she looked into those golden eyes.
And continued.
The wolf survived the night because she refused to let him die. Dawn finally arrived. Gray light spread across the frozen landscape. Elara sat beside the sleeping wolf, exhausted beyond words. Her eyelids felt heavy. Her body ached. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe. Then the earth began to shake. Her head lifted instantly. Hoofbeats. Hundreds of them. Thunder rolled across the snowfields. Fear shot through her chest. Riders. Armed riders. The sound grew louder. Closer. Closer. Until dark figures appeared along the edge of the ravine. Soldiers. Royal soldiers. Black armor. Silver wolf insignias. Weapons drawn. Elara's heart stopped. A terrifying silence followed. Then the soldiers parted. And he appeared. The Alpha King. King Kael Draven. His black horse looked monstrous beneath him. Snow swirled around his dark cloak. His presence alone seemed capable of silencing the storm itself. The moment he dismounted, every soldier lowered their head. No one spoke. No one moved. Kael's icy blue eyes searched the ravine, then found the wolf. Relief flashed across his face. Gone a second later, his gaze shifted.
Toward Elara.
Everything stopped. The wind, the cold, the world. For one impossible moment, neither looked away. Elara had expected anger, gratitude, suspicion, anything. But what she saw was something far stranger. Recognition. As though he had spent years searching for something he never expected to find. The feeling unsettled her.
Deeply.
Kael descended into the ravine without hesitation. His attention moved briefly toward the sleeping wolf. Fenrir, his sacred companion. The creature was alive. Because of her. The king looked back at Elara. Snowflakes drifted between them. Neither spoke. Then a captain stepped forward. Your Majesty, shall we detain the girl? The question shattered the silence. Every soldier waited. Every eye turned toward the king. Kael never looked away from Elara. His voice emerged low. Dangerous. Absolute. No one touches her. Shock rippled through the soldiers. The captain immediately lowered his head. Yes, Your Majesty. But Elara barely heard them, because the king was still staring at her. Still watching. Still refusing to leave. And for the first time in years, she felt afraid of something far more dangerous than loneliness. She felt seen. And somewhere deep inside the Alpha King, a wound that had remained frozen for years began to crack. Neither of them understood why. Yet both sensed the same terrifying truth. Their lives had just changed forever. And neither would survive unchanged. The northern storm should have ended with sunrise. Instead, it lingered. Dark clouds remained trapped above the mountains, casting long shadows across the frozen wilderness. And for reasons nobody understood, the most powerful king in the realm refused to leave. The soldiers had expected a swift departure. Fenrir had been found. The mission was complete. Yet hours passed. Then, an entire day. And King Kael Draven remained in a tiny settlement buried beneath snow. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. Villagers peered through frosted windows. Children stopped playing whenever royal guards passed. Fear settled over every street. Because kings did not stay in places like this. Especially not for an unwanted Omega girl. Yet every morning, Kael appeared outside the small cabin where Elara lived. Officially, he claimed he was overseeing Fenrir's recovery. Unofficially, even he no longer believed that excuse. Inside the cabin, warmth flickered from a small fireplace. The scent of herbs filled the air. Fenrir lay near the flames, recovering steadily. His wounds healed far faster than expected. Every day, Elara cleaned bandages and prepared medicines. Every day, the sacred wolf followed her movements with unwavering attention. And every day, Kael found another reason to remain. The king stood near the doorway now.
Silent.
watching. Elara pretended not to notice, though noticing him had become impossible to avoid. His presence filled every room, every breath, every moment. Even standing perfectly still, Kael felt dangerous. Power radiated from him like heat from a wildfire. Yet something else existed beneath that intimidating exterior. Something broken. Something exhausted. Something lonely. The realization disturbed her. Monsters were easier to understand. Broken men were not. Fenrir suddenly lifted his head. The wolf watched Elara cross the room carrying fresh water. Then, to everyone's surprise, he stood. His injured legs still weak. His movements careful, yet determined. The massive wolf walked directly toward her. The royal guards immediately tensed. One reached for his weapon. Another stepped forward. Kael raised a hand, instantly stopping them. Silence filled the cabin. Fenrir reached Elara, then lowered his enormous head against her shoulder. The room froze. No one spoke. No one breathed. Sacred wolves did not behave this way. Not with strangers.
Certainly not with humans.
Elara gently touched his fur. The wolf closed his eyes. Contentment flowed through their connection. A calm warmth she could physically feel. The same warmth spread unexpectedly through another bond she didn't understand. Because when her gaze lifted, she found Kael staring at her. Again, that same expression. That same impossible recognition. The feeling made her pulse quicken. Kael looked away first. The movement surprised them both. The Alpha King never retreated. Not from battles. Not from enemies. Not from fear. Yet something about this girl unsettled him. The truth frustrated him. For years, he had felt nothing. Not grief. Not hope. Not peace. Only duty. Only responsibility. Only survival. Then she appeared. And somehow the endless noise inside his mind became quieter. That frightened him more than any battlefield ever could. Because peace meant vulnerability. And vulnerability had once destroyed his entire world. Outside, snow continued falling. Night arrived early. Darkness swallowed the village. The guards maintained watch around the settlement while villagers remained hidden indoors. Only Kael wandered beyond the torchlight. Sleep never came easily anymore. Not since that night. Not since blood covered palace floors. Not since he failed to save the woman he once loved. The memories waited for him every time darkness arrived. Tonight proved no different. Kael stood alone beside a frozen cliff. The wind howled around him. His fists tightened. Breathing became harder. The past returned. A scream.
Blood.
A dying hand slipping from his grasp. His mate's final breath. The nightmare felt real. Too real. Pain surged through him. His wolf responded immediately. Violent. Unstable. Dangerous. The king dropped to one knee. Snow cracked beneath him. Every muscle trembled. The darkness inside him threatened to break free. Then a voice interrupted the storm. Your Majesty? Kael froze. Elara stood several feet away. A lantern glowed softly in her hands. Concern filled her eyes. Not fear.
Concern.
The emotion hit him harder than any weapon. No one looked at him that way. No one dared. The king immediately stood. His walls returning. Coldness returning. Distance returning. You should go back. Elara hesitated. Most people obeyed immediately when the king spoke. She didn't. Perhaps because she sensed something beneath his words. Something hidden. Something hurting. The wolf isn't the only one carrying wounds. The sentence escaped before she could stop herself. Silence followed. Dangerous silence. Kael's eyes narrowed. For a moment, she feared she had gone too far. Then something unexpected happened. His anger disappeared. Not completely. Just enough. Long enough for exhaustion to become visible. A single crack inside an impossible wall. The sight broke her heart. Because suddenly, he didn't look like a king. He looked like a man drowning alone. Neither spoke. The wind carried snow between them. The world felt strangely quiet. Then Elara stepped closer. Only one step. Nothing more. Yet Kael's wolf instantly calmed. The violent emotions vanished. The nightmare loosened its grip. Peace returned. The effect shocked him. His breathing slowed. The darkness retreated. And for the first time in years, he felt safe. The realization terrified him. Immediately, Kael stepped back. Distance. He needed distance. Trust was dangerous. Trust killed. Trust buried people beneath stone graves. His expression hardened. The king returned. The broken man vanished. You should leave. His voice sounded colder now. Sharper. Elara flinched. Not because of the words. Because she understood why he said them.
Fear.
Not fear of her. Fear of needing her. The realization lingered long after she returned to her cabin. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, inside the royal capital, another woman received disturbing news. Lady Seraphine stood beside a massive window overlooking the city. Moonlight illuminated her elegant features. Servants described her as beautiful. Nobles described her as intelligent. Enemies described her as dangerous. All three descriptions were true. A spy knelt before her, head lowered, voice shaking. The reports are confirmed, my lady. Seraphine slowly turned. What reports? The king remains in the northern settlement. Her expression darkened. For how long? 5 days. Silence. Dangerous silence. 5 days. Kael never wasted time. Never delayed important matters. Never stayed anywhere unnecessarily. Yet he remained with some unknown Omega girl. Something cold awakened inside Seraphine. Jealousy. Possessiveness. Suspicion. She had spent years positioning herself beside the throne. Years earning the king's trust. Years waiting. And now a nobody from the frozen wilderness threatened everything. Tell me about the girl. The spy swallowed. Her name is Elara. Family? None. Status. Omega. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. An Omega. Worse than she imagined. The spy continued nervously. There is one strange detail. What detail? The sacred wolf refuses to leave her. The room grew colder. Something about that statement felt wrong. Important. Ancient. Seraphine slowly approached the window once more. Far away, beyond mountains and forests, a forgotten Omega had somehow captured the attention of both a sacred wolf and a king. That was not coincidence. That was a threat. And threats had to be eliminated. Her lips curved into a smile. Beautiful. Terrifying. Find everything. The spy lowered his head. My lady. Everything about her. Outside the palace, thunder rolled across distant skies. Far away, Elara slept beside the fire. Fenrir resting nearby, completely unaware that powerful eyes had already turned toward her. Completely unaware that enemies were beginning to move. And completely unaware that buried within her bloodline lay a secret capable of changing an entire kingdom. A secret Seraphine's spies were about to uncover. A secret that would make Elara either the kingdom's salvation or its destruction. And by morning, the first piece of that ancient mystery would finally be revealed. The royal capital appeared like a dream carved from gold and stone. Massive walls stretched toward the clouds. Towering spires pierced the gray sky. Thousands of windows glittered beneath winter sunlight. For most people, the sight inspired wonder. For Elara, it inspired fear. The carriage rolled through the enormous city gates while crowds gathered along the streets. Citizens paused their daily routines. Merchants abandoned stalls. Children climbed fences. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the mysterious girl traveling beside the Alpha King's sacred wolf. Whispers followed her arrival, like shadows, like poison, like the beginning of something dangerous. Inside the carriage, Elara stared through the window. The city felt overwhelming. Too large, too loud, too alive. She had spent her entire life surrounded by snow-covered forests and silent mountains. This place felt like another world entirely. Across from her sat King Kael, silent as always. His gaze remained fixed outside. Yet every few moments, his attention shifted toward her. Subtle, almost invisible, but she noticed. Lately, she noticed everything about him. The tension in his shoulders. The exhaustion hidden behind his eyes. The way his expression softened whenever Fenrir rested near her. Each detail created questions she couldn't answer. Questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. The carriage finally stopped before the royal palace. Elara stepped outside. Her breath caught instantly. The palace dwarfed everything she had ever seen. Marble staircases climbed toward enormous silver doors. Royal banners fluttered in the wind. Guards lined every pathway. Nobles filled the courtyard, watching, judging, waiting. And the moment they saw her, the whispers began. That's her? The Omega? She looks ordinary. No wonder the king hides her. Perhaps she enchanted him. Laughter followed.
Soft.
Cool. Elara lowered her gaze. Old wounds reopened immediately. The same feeling returned. The same loneliness. The same certainty that she didn't belong. Then suddenly the whispers stopped. A heavy silence spread through the courtyard. Kael had moved. Nothing dramatic. Nothing violent. Only one step closer to Elara. Yet the effect was immediate. The nobles understood the warning. The Alpha King had spoken without speaking. No one dared continue. Elara felt the shift instantly. Protection. Again. The realization unsettled her more than the insults, because she was becoming accustomed to it, and that frightened her. Inside the palace, matters became worse. Every corridor felt filled with eyes. Every room carried hidden judgment. Servants stared. Advisors whispered. Nobles smiled with false politeness. Only Fenrir remained unchanged. The sacred wolf followed her everywhere, like a guardian, like a shadow, like he belonged beside her. Several days passed. Then came the first royal gathering. The grand hall blazed with candlelight. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Music drifted through the air. Laughter echoed between marble pillars. The kingdom's most powerful figures gathered beneath one roof. And every single one watched Elara. Some with curiosity. Some with resentment. Some with outright hatred. Among them stood Lady Seraphine. Beautiful. Elegant. Dangerous. Her silver gown shimmered beneath golden light. Her smile appeared flawless. Yet her eyes remained fixed on Elara.
Cold. Calculating.
Predatory. She approached Kael first. As always, for years she had stood beside him during every gathering,
Every ceremony.
every political meeting. The position belonged to her. Or, at least she believed it did. Until now. My king. Her voice flowed like silk. Kael nodded. Nothing more. The response irritated her immediately, because once upon a time, that would have been enough. Now his attention drifted elsewhere.
Toward Elara.
Always toward Elara. Jealousy twisted inside her chest, hidden beneath perfect composure. Nearby, Elara felt increasingly uncomfortable. Every noble seemed eager to test her, to expose weakness,
To prove she didn't belong.
Questions became sharper. Comments became crueler. The pressure mounted. Then something unexpected happened. A royal historian entered the hall carrying ancient documents. Dust-covered records recovered from forgotten archives. The discovery immediately attracted attention. The old scholar requested permission to address the king. Kael allowed it. The hall fell silent. The historian opened one ancient scroll. His hands trembled. My king, we discover records concerning the sacred wolves. Instantly, the atmosphere changed. Even Seraphine became alert. The sacred wolves were not ordinary creatures. They were woven into the kingdom's oldest legends. The records describe an ancient bloodline. The historian continued. A forgotten family sworn to protect the wolves of the Alpha Kings. Murmurs spread through the hall. The scholar slowly turned toward Elara. And everything stopped. Fear crawled down her spine. According to these records. His voice shook. The girl's family name appears among them. Silence. Absolute silence. The world seemed to freeze. Elara stared at him.
Confused.
Impossible. She knew nothing about her family. Nothing about her ancestors. Nothing about her bloodline. The historian continued. There is more. His expression paled. The records reference a prophecy. Now the hall truly exploded with whispers. Even Kael's attention sharpened. The old scholar swallowed hard. When darkness threatens the kingdom, the wolves will choose a queen. The words echoed through the chamber. A queen, chosen by wolves. Every noble immediately looked toward Fenrir. The sacred wolf lay calmly beside Elara, as though the answer already stood before them. Fear entered Seraphine's eyes for the first time. Then hatred quickly replaced it, because suddenly she understood the threat. This girl was no longer an inconvenience. She was becoming a symbol, and symbols were powerful, dangerously powerful. The gathering continued, but nothing felt normal afterward. The prophecies spread through the palace within hours. Servants whispered it. Soldiers discussed it. Nobles argued about it. A queen chosen by wolves. A queen destined to restore the kingdom. For some, it inspired hope. For others, fear. For Seraphine, it inspired war. Late that evening, another gathering filled the grand hall. Music returned. Wine flowed. Masks of politeness returned. Yet beneath the elegance, tension simmered. Invisible, waiting. Elara stood near a balcony overlooking the city lights. The prophecy still echoed inside her mind. Nothing made sense. She wasn't a future queen. She wasn't special. She was simply Elara, the unwanted Omega from a forgotten village.
Footsteps approached.
She turned.
Kael stood there.
Moonlight illuminated his features. The distance between them suddenly felt very small. Neither spoke immediately. Neither looked away. You should ignore them. His voice broke the silence. Elara blinked. The nobles? Kael nodded. They fear what they don't understand. A sad smile touched her lips. I've spent my whole life being feared. Something painful flickered across his face, because he understood that feeling more than anyone. For a brief moment, the king and the Omega simply stood together. No crowns, no prophecy, no politics, just two lonely souls sharing silence. Then chaos erupted. A scream shattered the night. Instinct moved faster than thought. Kael turned. A flash of steel appeared across the ballroom. An assassin. Everything happened at once. The blade flew through the air, straight toward Elara. Gasps erupted. Nobles scattered. Guards shouted. Time slowed. Elara never moved. She barely saw the weapon. But Kael did. The Alpha King crossed the distance instantly. The knife struck. Pain exploded through his shoulder. Blood splashed across marble floors. The ballroom froze. Silence followed. Terrified silence. Kael stood between Elara and death, protecting her, not as a king protecting a citizen, not as a ruler protecting an asset, as a man terrified of losing someone. The realization struck everyone simultaneously, including Seraphine. Across the hall, she watched blood drip from Kael's shoulder, watched his hand reach for Elara, watched the panic in his eyes, and finally understood the truth. The Alpha King was falling in love. The discovery filled her with cold fury, because if love existed, then Kael would never belong to her. And if Elara remained alive, neither would the throne. As guards dragged away the assassin, Seraphine quietly stepped into the shadows. Her mind already moving, already planning, already preparing the next attack. A far more devastating one, because knives could fail, but lies could destroy kingdoms. And before sunrise, a forged letter would appear inside the palace. A letter carrying Elara's name. A letter capable of turning Kael against the very woman he had just bled to protect. And this time, the wound would strike directly at the heart. Winter returned to the capital, not with snow, with silence. The kind of silence that arrives before something precious breaks. 3 nights had passed since the assassination attempt. 3 nights since Kael had thrown himself in front of death. 3 nights since the entire kingdom witnessed what no one thought possible. The Alpha King cared. And that truth terrified more people than the assassin ever had. The palace had changed. Whispers filled every corridor. Servants lowered their voices when Elara approached. Nobles watched her with increasing suspicion. And somewhere inside the shadows, Lady Seraphine smiled, because her trap was finally ready. The forged letter appeared before dawn. placed carefully among royal intelligence reports, hidden where it would inevitably be found. The document looked authentic. Every seal perfect. Every signature flawless. Every lie believable. According to the letter, Elara had been secretly communicating with northern rebels, providing information, gaining Kael's trust, preparing to manipulate the throne from within. A ridiculous accusation. A cruel accusation. But lies rarely succeed because they are logical. They succeed because they exploit existing fears. And Kael possessed one fear greater than all others: betrayal. The letter arrived in his private war chamber shortly after sunrise. The king stood alone beside a table covered in military maps. His injured shoulder remained bandaged, the wound still fresh, the memory of nearly losing Elara even fresher. A royal advisor entered, nervous, uneasy. "My king," this was recovered from an intercepted courier. Kael accepted the letter. At first, he barely glanced at it. Then he saw the name, Elara. His expression darkened. The advisor quietly left, leaving him alone with the document. Minutes passed, then more. The king read every word.
Twice.
3 times.
His jaw tightened. His breathing changed.
The room felt colder. Not because he believed it, because a part of him feared it. That was the worst part. The small voice buried beneath reason. The voice created by years of grief. The voice whispering, "What if? What if history repeats itself? What if trusting someone again destroys everything? What if this pain returns?" Kael closed his eyes. Memories immediately attacked. His former mate.
Her blood.
The betrayal that led to her death. The helplessness. The guilt. The endless regret. Trust had once cost him everything. Now fate was asking him to trust again. And he wasn't sure he could survive losing someone twice. Hours later, the accusations spread through court. Witnesses appeared. False witnesses. Paid witnesses. Prepared witnesses. Each one telling carefully crafted stories. Each one reinforcing Seraphine's lies. The pressure grew rapidly. Nobles demanded answers. Advisors demanded action. Political enemies demanded punishment. The palace transformed into a battlefield. And at the center of it stood Elara.
Confused. Heartbroken.
Completely unaware of how deeply the poison had already spread. When the royal guards arrived outside her chambers, her stomach immediately dropped. Fear swept through her chest. Not because she had done something wrong. Because she knew how people treated those they chose to blame. The guards escorted her toward the throne room. Fenrir followed, refusing to leave her side. The sacred wolf growled at every soldier who approached, as though sensing danger, as though sensing betrayal. The massive doors opened. Elara stepped inside. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. The entire royal court had gathered. The atmosphere felt suffocating, heavy, hostile. And at the center of it all sat Kael, his expression unreadable. That hurt more than anything, because lately she had begun understanding his expressions, his silences, his moods. Now she could understand nothing. The accusations were read aloud, each lie striking harder than the last. Elara listened in disbelief. Her pulse raced. Her hands trembled. "This isn't true." Her voice echoed through the chamber. Nobody answered. Another witness stepped forward. More lies. More manipulation. More poison. Elara searched the room, desperately, looking for one person. Only one.
Kael.
If he believed her, nothing else mattered. The court disappeared. The accusations disappeared. The fear disappeared. Only him remained. Slowly, their eyes met. And for one terrible moment, she saw it.
Doubt.
Tiny, barely visible.
But there. Doubt.
The sight shattered her. Not because the kingdom doubted her. Because he did. The one person she never expected to question her. The one person who made her believe she wasn't alone. The one person who crossed a ballroom to save her life. Fear had reached him. Fear had won. The realization broke something inside her. Kael felt it immediately. The moment her expression changed. The moment hope disappeared from her eyes. Regret surged through him. Instantly. Violently. Yet it was too late. The damage was done, because some wounds happen in seconds and require years to heal. Neither spoke, neither moved. The silence between them became unbearable. Then Elara finally lowered her gaze. Not in submission, not in shame, in heartbreak. The difference mattered, and somehow Kael understood it. Too late. Far too late. That night, while the palace argued about investigations and punishments, Elara packed her belongings. There weren't many. A cloak, a few books, a handful of personal items. The room looked emptier than ever. So did her heart. Outside her window, snow drifted across the palace gardens. Beautiful.
Cold. Distant.
Exactly like the life she was leaving behind. A soft sound interrupted her thoughts. Fenrir. The wolf stood at the doorway, golden eyes watching her. Sadness flowed through their connection. The wolf understood. Animals often understood pain better than people. Elara knelt beside him, burying her fingers in silver fur. Tears finally appeared. The first tears she had allowed herself. I'm tired. Her voice cracked. So tired. Fenrir pressed his head against her shoulder. The simple gesture nearly destroyed what remained of her strength. Because the wolf trusted her.
Completely.
Without hesitation. Without doubt. Without fear. Unlike the man she loved. The realization hurt most of all. Hours before sunrise, she left. No announcement. No farewell. No dramatic confrontation. Just quiet footsteps disappearing into darkness. By the time Kael discovered the truth behind the forged evidence, she was already gone. The revelation came like a blade to the heart. The witnesses confessed. The documents were exposed. The lies unraveled. Every piece of Seraphine's trap collapsed. And Kael finally understood what he had done. His knees nearly gave out. The memory haunted him instantly. That single look in Elara's eyes. That single moment of doubt. He had become exactly what she feared. Another person who abandoned her. Another person who chose suspicion over trust. Another wound. Another scar. The king ordered immediate search parties. Hundreds of soldiers. Thousands of miles. Every road. Every village. Every forest. Nothing. Elara had vanished. And with her departure, something unnatural began happening. Fenrir refused commands. Sacred wolves abandoned royal territories. Strange storms appeared throughout the kingdom. Ancient forests grew restless. Even the land itself seemed wounded. As if the realm knew something precious had been lost. Months passed. Winter surrendered to spring. Spring surrendered to summer. Yet Elara never returned. Meanwhile, far beyond the borders, a different woman emerged from the ashes of heartbreak. The frightened Omega slowly disappeared. Pain forged something stronger. Loneliness became discipline. Suffering became wisdom. And the girl who once begged for acceptance began discovering her true power, her true bloodline, her true destiny. One evening, while standing atop a mountain overlooking distant kingdoms, Elara received news from traveling merchants. The capital was collapsing. Political factions were preparing for war. Nobles openly challenged the throne. And Lady Seraphine's influence had become stronger than ever. The kingdom stood at the edge of ruin. A cold wind swept across the mountains. Elara stared toward the distant horizon. Toward the kingdom she swore never to see again. Toward the king she still couldn't forget. For a long moment, silence surrounded her. Then her eyes hardened. Not with hatred. With purpose. The broken Omega was gone. Something new stood in her place. Something stronger. Something dangerous. Something destined. And as wolves began emerging from the forest below, answering a call only they could hear, Elara made her decision. She would return. Not for love. Not for forgiveness. Not for the king. She would return for justice. And somewhere far away, the Alpha King suddenly looked toward the northern horizon, as though he felt her decision at the exact same moment, as though an invisible bond between them had just awakened once again. The storm that separated them was ending, but the war waiting ahead would be far more devastating. and neither of them yet understood who had truly been pulling the strings from the shadows. The kingdom first heard the rumors in whispers. An Omega woman walking through the northern wilderness. A woman followed by wolves. Not one, not two, hundreds. The stories spread from village to village. Travelers spoke of silver eyes glowing in the darkness. Hunters claimed entire wolf packs bowed before her. Merchants swore they had seen ancient beasts emerge from forests untouched for centuries. Most dismissed the tales as legends, until the wolves reached the kingdom's borders. Then nobody laughed anymore. The northern gates opened at sunrise. Guards stood frozen upon the walls. Citizens crowded the streets. Nobles rushed to balconies. Every eye turned toward the horizon. And there she was, Elara, walking through falling snow.
Calm.
Fearless. Unshaken. The frightened Omega who once arrived in the capital with uncertainty in her eyes was gone. Something else stood in her place. Something forged by suffering. Something forged by loss. A dark cloak flowed behind her. Her posture carried quiet authority. Confidence radiated from every step. And surrounding her, wolves. Massive wolves. Gray wolves. Black wolves. Silver wolves. An entire army moving as one. The sight stole breath from every witness. The prophecy was no longer a rumor. It was standing before them.
Alive.
The queen chosen by wolves. Far above the city, King Kael watched from the palace balcony. His pulse stopped. For months he had searched. For months he had hoped. For months he had dreamed of seeing her again. Now she stood before him. And somehow she looked even farther away than before. Because this woman no longer needed saving. This woman no longer needed protection. The realization filled him with equal parts admiration and pain. Below, the city erupted into chaos. Some people cheered. Others knelt. Others looked terrified. The wolves ignored them all. Every creature remained focused on one person. Elara. Only Elara. The kingdom had never witnessed such loyalty,
Such devotion.
such power. And deep inside the palace, Lady Seraphine felt genuine fear for the first time. Because the prophecy she had spent months trying to destroy was becoming reality. The people loved symbols. And Elara had become one. Hope. Justice.
Destiny.
Dangerous things. Very dangerous things. Meanwhile, Elara continued toward the palace. Her expression remained calm. Yet beneath that calm exterior, emotions churned violently. Memories haunted every step. The betrayal. The loneliness. The heartbreak. The man who doubted her. The man she still couldn't forget. The palace doors opened. And there he stood, waiting.
Kael.
For a moment, the entire world disappeared. No guards. No wolves. No kingdom. Only them. The distance between them felt enormous. Larger than mountains. Larger than oceans. Larger than time itself. Neither moved. Neither spoke. Months of pain stood silently between them. Then Kael finally stepped forward. The king who commanded armies. The ruler feared by nations. The man who never bowed to anyone. Looked almost uncertain. Almost vulnerable. Elara. Her name sounded different in his voice. Careful. Precious. Painful. Elara's chest tightened. She hated that it still affected her. Hated that a single word could awaken feelings she spent months trying to bury. Kael stopped several feet away. Close enough to see her. Not close enough to touch. Because he no longer had that right. His eyes searched hers. Looking for anger. Looking for forgiveness. Looking for anything. Instead, he found strength. Strength he had helped create. Strength he wished she never needed. I was wrong. The words fell into silence. Simple. Honest. Devastating. The entire palace seemed to freeze. No king apologized publicly. Especially not Kael. Yet there he stood. Owning his failure. Owning his guilt. Owning his regret. For a brief moment, Elara saw the broken man beneath the crown again. The man she once helped heal. The man who had nearly healed her. The sight hurt, because part of her still loved him. And love was often cruel. Before either could say more, Alarms suddenly exploded throughout the city. A horn echoed from the eastern district. Then another. Then another. The chaos erupted instantly. Guards rushed through corridors. Citizens screamed. The ground itself seemed to tremble. Kael's head snapped toward the city. Instinct immediately replacing emotion. What happened? A soldier burst into the courtyard.
Pale.
Terrified. My king. The man dropped to one knee. Rebel forces have entered the capital. Shock spread through the crowd. Kael's eyes narrowed. Impossible. The city gates were heavily guarded. No army should have entered unnoticed. Unless. Betrayal. The realization hit instantly. Seraphine. Meanwhile, inside the royal council chamber, Lady Seraphine stood before dozens of powerful nobles. Her elegant mask finally gone. No more pretending. No more manipulation hidden behind smiles. The woman revealed her true face. Cold. Ambitious. Merciless. For too long, she declared, this kingdom has been ruled by weakness. The rebellious nobles cheered. Soldiers loyal to her flooded the palace. Weapons drawn. Banners raised. The coup had begun. Months of planning finally reached their conclusion. The throne was within reach. All she needed was one final victory. One final death. Elara. Back outside, battle erupted across the capital. Steel clashed against steel. Smoke filled the sky. Citizens fled through crowded streets. The kingdom descended into chaos. Yet something even stranger happened. The wolves moved. Thousands of wolves. Responding instantly to Elara's presence. To her command. To her will. The creatures surged through the city like a living storm. Protecting civilians. Defending soldiers. Driving back rebels. Every witness watched in disbelief. This wasn't control. It was trust. Absolute trust. The wolves had chosen her. Not because she commanded them. Because they believed in her. Meanwhile, Kael fought beside her. The old tension between them remained. The old pain remained. Yet something else remained, too. The bond. The connection neither could sever. Again and again, they found themselves protecting one another during battle. Instinctively. Naturally. As though separation had never happened. Hours later, the coup began collapsing. Captured rebels confessed. Forged documents were uncovered. Witnesses exposed years of manipulation. Truth spread rapidly through the city. Everything pointed toward Seraphine. Every lie. Every betrayal. Every scheme. At sunset, the kingdom learned the truth. Seraphine had orchestrated everything. The forged letters. The false accusations. The exile. All of it. Citizens demanded justice. Soldiers demanded punishment. The kingdom demanded answers. Yet when royal guards finally stormed Seraphine's chambers, she was gone. Escaped. Vanished into the shadows. The discovery unsettled everyone. Especially Elara. Because something felt wrong. Seraphine was intelligent. Dangerous. But not powerful enough to create chaos on this scale alone. The pieces didn't fit. That night, while the city struggled to recover, Elara entered an abandoned archive beneath the palace. Ancient records lined forgotten shelves. Dust covered every surface. Moonlight spilled through cracked stone windows. And there she discovered something terrifying. A hidden correspondence. Old letters. Secret agreements. Names.
Dates. Plans.
Evidence. The documents revealed a truth no one expected. Seraphine had never been the mastermind. She was merely a pawn. A useful pawn. Controlled by someone far more dangerous. Someone connected to the royal bloodline itself. Someone believed dead for nearly 20 years. Elara's blood turned cold. Because she recognized the name immediately. Prince Malric Draven. Kael's exiled uncle. A man consumed by vengeance. A man who once tried to seize the throne. A man responsible for countless deaths. According to history, he died long ago. According to the letters, he was very much alive. And he had spent years preparing for war. Suddenly a cold breeze swept through the archive. The candles flickered. Then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Elara slowly looked toward the doorway. A A shadow stood there.
Tall. Still. Watching.
Then a familiar voice emerged from the darkness.
Low. Calm.
Terrifying. Smart girl. Elara's heart stopped, because the voice did not belong to Seraphine. It belonged to the man who should have been dead. And as moonlight finally touched his face, the true enemy stepped out of the shadows.
Smiling.
The real war had just begun. The sky broke apart above the kingdom. Black lightning ripped through storm clouds. Thunder rolled across the mountains like the roar of ancient gods awakening from sleep. Below, the capital prepared for war. Not a political war. Not a struggle for power. A war for survival. Torches burned along city walls. Soldiers armed themselves. Wolves gathered in impossible numbers beyond the gates. And standing atop the highest tower of the palace, Elara stared into the darkness approaching from the north. She could feel it. The fear. The hatred. The rage. Not her own. His. Prince Malric Draven. The forgotten prince. The shadow behind every tragedy. The architect behind years of suffering. Behind Seraphine. Behind the rebellion. Behind the lies that destroyed everything. The storm itself seemed to answer his anger. Behind her, footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn. She knew who it was.
Kael.
For several moments, neither spoke. The silence felt familiar now. Comfortable. Dangerous. Because too many words remained trapped between them. Too many wounds remained open. The city lights shimmered below. The world felt strangely quiet before the coming disaster. Then Kael finally spoke. I never stopped looking. Elara closed her eyes. Pain immediately surfaced. Months of pain. Months of loneliness. Months of trying to forget. Yet somehow hearing those words hurt even more. I know. The answer came softly. Kael's chest tightened. Because she did know. Every search party. Every messenger. Every desperate attempt. She knew. And despite everything, she still left. The truth shattered him. Not because she abandoned him.
Because he understood why.
The king slowly stepped closer. The storm reflected in his blue eyes. If I could change that day. His voice cracked. The sound shocked even him. Kings weren't supposed to sound broken. Yet he was.
Completely.
If I could take back that moment, I would. Elara finally looked at him. And for the first time since her return, she saw no king. No alpha. No ruler. Only a man carrying unbearable regret. The sight nearly destroyed her resolve. Because this was the Kael she had fallen for. Not the crown. Not the power. The man beneath it all. Before she could answer, a horn blasted across the city.
Once. Twice.
3 times. Every soldier on the walls immediately turned north. The enemy had arrived. The moment was gone. The war had begun. The horizon became black. Not from darkness. From an army. Thousands upon thousands of soldiers marched across frozen plains. Black banners twisted in the wind. Dark magic crawled through the earth beneath their feet. And at the center rode Prince Malric. His armor looked ancient. His face untouched by time. His smile carried decades of hatred. Beside him stood Seraphine, the woman who destroyed countless lives. The woman whose ambition nearly destroyed a kingdom. The final pieces of the nightmare. Kael stepped onto the city walls. His cloak snapped violently in the wind. The soldiers behind him waited. The kingdom waited. The wolves waited. And then the Alpha King drew his sword. A roar erupted across the battlefield. The war exploded. Steel crashed against steel. Magic tore through the sky. Fire illuminated the darkness. The battlefield became chaos. Yet amid the violence, something extraordinary happened. The wolves charged. Thousands of wolves. Running beside soldiers. Protecting civilians. Defending the wounded. The kingdom watched in disbelief. Never before had humans and sacred wolves fought together. The impossible was happening. Because Elara stood among them. And wherever she moved, hope followed. Not power. Not fear.
Hope.
That was her greatest strength. Meanwhile, Kael carved through enemy ranks like a storm unleashed. Every strike carried years of guilt. Every swing carried years of regret. He wasn't simply fighting for the kingdom. He was fighting for a future he almost destroyed. A future with her. Hours passed. The battlefield drowned in blood and fire. Yet the enemy continued advancing. Because Malric possessed something far more dangerous than an army. Ancient magic. Dark energies spiraled around him like living shadows. Every spell shattered defenses. Every attack devastated entire battalions. Even Kael struggled against him. Then came the moment everything nearly ended. Seraphine saw her opportunity. Hidden among collapsing ruins, she watched Elara helping wounded soldiers. The Omega Queen. The chosen one. The woman who took everything from her. Hatred consumed what little remained of Seraphine's humanity. Her fingers closed around a poisoned blade. And silently, she moved. The battlefield distracted everyone. No one noticed her approach. No one except Fenrir. The sacred wolf growled. Too late. Seraphine lunged. The blade flashed toward Elara's heart. Time slowed. The world stopped. Elara turned. Shock widened her eyes. The knife was already there. Already descending. Already moments from impact. Then someone stepped between them.
Kael.
The blade plunged into him instead. Pain exploded through his body. Blood-stained silver armor. Gasps echoed across the battlefield. Seraphine froze. Elara froze. The entire world froze. Kael staggered, but remained standing. His eyes never left Elara. Not for a second.
Not even now.
Not even bleeding.
Not even dying.
The realization shattered something inside her. Because this time, he didn't hesitate. This time he didn't doubt. This time he chose her without fear. Without questions. Without conditions. The king collapsed to one knee. Seraphine tried to escape. She never made it. Fenrir reached her first. The sacred wolf's roar echoed across the battlefield. Moments later, royal guards surrounded her. The manipulator, who once controlled kingdoms, finally fell. And nobody came to save her. Because lies eventually run out of places to hide. The final battle belonged to Kael and Malric. Uncle against nephew. Past against future. Hatred against hope. The clash shook the battlefield. Magic collided with steel. Lightning exploded overhead. The storm itself seemed alive. But Malric underestimated one thing. Elara. Not her power. Her heart. Standing beside Kael, she united wolves, soldiers, and magic itself. The kingdom fought as one. And for the first time in decades, unity defeated fear. Together they brought Malric down. Together they ended the war. Together they ended the nightmare. When dawn finally arrived, silence spread across the battlefield. The storm vanished. The clouds broke apart. Sunlight touched the kingdom once more. And for the first time in years, peace returned. Weeks later, the capital celebrated. Flowers replaced ashes. Music replaced screams. Hope replaced fear. The coronation drew people from every corner of the realm. Thousands filled the palace square. Nobles. Farmers. Soldiers.
Children.
Wolves. Everyone gathered beneath a sky of gold. At the center stood Elara. Radiant. Strong. Unbreakable. Not because she had never suffered. Because she survived suffering. Across from her stood Kael. No armor. No sword. No walls. Only truth. The ceremony reached its final moment. The crown waited. The kingdom watched. Then something unexpected happened. Kael stepped forward. And knelt.
A king.
Kneeling. The crowd fell silent. Emotion filled his eyes.
Raw. Honest.
Unfiltered. The entire kingdom witnessed what happened next. Not a speech from a ruler. A confession from a man. I spent years fearing loss. His voice echoed across the square. I feared trust. I feared love. I feared giving someone the power to break me. His gaze locked onto Elara. And, because of that fear, I almost lost the greatest gift this kingdom ever received. Tears filled countless eyes, including hers. Kael lowered his head, not as a king, as a man asking forgiveness. As long as I live, I will choose you over fear. Silence followed. Beautiful silence. Elara's heart trembled. Every wound, every memory, every heartbreak, they all existed. But so did something else. Healing. Slowly, she stepped forward, then lifted his chin. The kingdom held its breath. And finally, she smiled. Not because the past disappeared, because they survived it. Together. I choose you too. The words broke the crowd. Cheers erupted instantly. Thousands celebrated. The kingdom rejoiced. And beneath the golden sunlight, the queen chosen by wolves was crowned. The Alpha King stood beside her. Not as a monster. Not as a broken ruler. As a redeemed man. As her equal. As her home. High above the palace, wolves began howling. One voice. Then dozens. Then hundreds. The sound rolled across mountains and forests. Across rivers and valleys. Across an entire kingdom finally healed. Fenrir approached the new queen. The ancient wolf lowered his head beneath her hand. His golden eyes shimmered.
Proud.
Peaceful. Complete. Yet as the celebration continued, Fenrir suddenly looked toward the distant northern mountains. Far beyond the horizon. Far beyond known lands. And one by one, the wolves looked that way too. Elara noticed. So did Kael. Something ancient stirred in the distance. Something waiting. Something watching. The next destiny had already begun calling. But for today, the war was over. The kingdom was safe. The broken hearts were healed. And the love born inside a frozen ravine had become a legend that would be remembered for generations.
The end.